Hello and welcome to your daily mobile game Sizzle with me, Jon Jordan. So today we're asking the question, was the 21 months that Dawn of Titans spent in soft launch time well spent? So what we've been looking at is Zynga and Natural Motion's game Dawn of Titans that came out at the start of December 2016, and asking the long period of time it spent in testing, what actually happened during that time. So as far as I can see, it's the game that spent the longest period of time in soft launch and actually come out. Some games have spent a long time in soft launch and then been canned, but this actually was in soft launch for a long period of time and actually came out. And been looking back at some of the kind of charts to see where the game was in soft launch and kind of what performance the game had there. And it's kind of interesting. It's pretty clear to see that the game was improved during its soft launch period. So let's go and have a look at some graphs and see how that worked out. Okay, so here we're looking at the graph of Dawn of Titans' top grossing performance on the Google Play chart in Norway and Denmark. And we can see the game was launched in soft launch in those territories in October 2015. And we can see it kind of climbs up. It does better in Denmark than it does in Norway throughout the entire period. But in the first kind of few months, the game is actually improving. So we can see certainly in Denmark, it quite quickly goes into the top 50 and kind of sticks around there. In Norway, it takes a bit longer. So if we look, we're kind of looking into early 2016 to see the game kind of enter the top 50 and do well. So we can kind of see, as we expect in a kind of soft launch kind of experience, that the game isn't finished. It goes in for testing and the game is updated and improved. And over a period of months, the developer is looking to see various stats. It may not be the top grossing performance, of course, that it's looking at, but basically the bottom line is the bottom line. It's looking to see how much money it can make out of the game improving. And that definitely happens at different levels in these two countries. And that happens, again, really throughout the first half of 2016. So the top grossing performance, you can see it goes up and down depending on various factors. But it roughly is staying in the same kind of range. And then what happens in July is it just kind of collapses after July, and it's a bit all over the place. It's definitely not what it was in the first half of 2016. And then the big updates come out before just before the start of December, before the game comes out globally, and then we can see the game kind of leaps back up, certainly into top 100 top grossing on Google Play. But it's not at the level it was before. Obviously, we're only just over kind of 6 weeks into that global launch period, but so we can't maybe make too many long-term kind of assertions on that. But what it seems to be from looking at the graph is the game did well, improved the end of 2015 into early 2016. The soft launch worked for that kind of period, and then something kind of weird happened, and the kind of all that momentum was lost. And when the game launched globally, some of that momentum was regained, but not at the same level it had been before. So one question to be asked is, why didn't Zynga release Dawn of Titans in May or June 2016? One reason we could say is it's had another big game coming out there. So it had CSR Racing 2, which is Natural Motion's other big game, and that came out at the end of June 2016. So you've got potentially two big games coming out at the same time. That can be difficult to kind of structure and handle, even for a company like Zynga, which is fairly large. So you might want a kind of few months between them, and obviously you don't really want to release a big game in the middle of the summer. So then you're into early kind of autumn. The other thing is that the game did receive, it had about 16 updates in 2016, and a lot of those happened from August to just prior to launch. So it actually had kind of 3 updates very, very quick in December, just before it went live globally. And the reason for that was, obviously, the game was designed in 2014 and mainly developed in 2015, and then was in soft launch for 2015, so being updated then, but not necessarily being massively overhauled. And the game, I think, even now, it still feels a little bit old-fashioned in some regards, and it definitely looked old-fashioned in terms of the user interface. So a lot of that was changed just before it went live, and more subtly, I guess, some of the pacing of the game, how you kind of unlocked certain units and things like that. That was quite radically changed kind of November, December time. So I think for the developers, they had a lot of things they wanted to get in, and they definitely kind of improved the game in terms of from the player's point of view, how you kind of got in the game, how you stayed in the game, that kind of maybe retention. But what's interesting is that doesn't appear to have really been shown in the top grossing performance. Obviously, as I said before, top grossing performance isn't everything, and the way we're looking at it is rather crude compared to the metrics that Zynga would have had about exactly what players were doing and such like. But it seems to be a slight kind of tail wagging the dog thing, or dog wagging the tail, whichever you want to put it. Really, that the game. Actually, probably, the earlier it would have been released, and the more time it spent in soft launch, the more it kind of looked dated, and then the bigger the update had to be. So the longer the time it had to be in developing those kind of updates. So it almost became this kind of, I think, a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, that after the kind of May-June kind of time, if it hadn't come out then Zynga were kind of locked into effectively what they were locked into. And the kind of sad thing, I guess, is that all that work doesn't really seem to have much impact. I mean, I think it's hard to say the last 6 months that Dawn of Titans spent in soft launch has reduced its performance when it came out globally, but equally it doesn't appear to have particularly enhanced it. So looking at it in another way, that 6 months of time that people, that team were being employed, so you've got kind of salary costs, and you also have this idea of opportunity cost. So if Zynga had got Dawn of Titans out 6 months earlier, would have kind of 6 months of revenue that it hasn't had if it gone live globally. So all in all, I think it's a kind of a warning, a cautionary tale of sometimes spending too much time in soft launch. And now developers do tend to spend a lot of time in soft launch, really trying to focus on their metrics. And sometimes maybe they get a little bit too dragged down in what the metrics are and what the game looks like. And actually, sometimes just getting the game out there a bit quicker can be the most important thing. Obviously, again, important to say every game's different, so you can't take every conclusion from one game and apply it to another game. There's different things as well. You could say Dawn of Titans was a old-fashioned in terms of the mobile strategy genre that had moved on quite a lot as well. But I think developers do need to pay attention to metrics, and also pay attention not to kind of having this feature creep, which I think kind of surrounded Dawn of Titans. And you could equally say that from an executive point of view, Zynga's not doing very well at the moment. Had a lot riding, so has a lot riding on Dawn of Titans. So that's extra pressure, and that always tends to make people more kind of inert and not making a decision to go early. So there we go. Dawn of Titans. I have to say, I'm still playing it. Still think it's a very interesting game. Like all games, has some strong points, has some weak points, but I think it definitely would have had a bigger impact had it come out earlier. So there we go. That is the Sizzle for today. Thanks for watching. Come back tomorrow and see what the mobile game Sizzle is all about then.